Now at 10, an update on the fight to stop the coronavirus from spreading inside Texas nursing homes. The Texas National Guard has activated disinfection teams to help clean nursing facilities. Eyewitness News reporter Holly Stouffer tells us about the challenges our nursing homes are facing and how this can make a big difference.
The coronavirus has made its way inside Silver Tree Nursing and Rehab in Schertz. In a press release, facility management says, quote, "We have had people connected with our facility test positive for COVID-19. We are working closely with the local health authority to determine the full spread of the outbreak. Management isn't giving an exact number of cases." We spoke to a woman who lives in a retirement community down the road.
I know we've had people in there and out of there, and people visit over there.
She's concerned there could be an outbreak like what happened in San Antonio. Southeast Nursing and Rehabilitation Center became the epicenter of the city's coronavirus fight, with more than 100 residents and staff members testing positive. 19 people died. Governor Greg Abbott says help is on the way for nursing facilities. Teams with the Texas National Guard will disinfect nursing homes to stop the virus from spreading. And earlier this week, the governor directed state health services to test all residents and staff of nursing homes in Texas. Silver Tree Management says they're doing enhanced housekeeping and daily screenings, but they won't say if those who have been infected are residents or employees.
It would be nice to know. The more information we have, the more we can prepare and protect ourselves.
Holly joins us live. Holly, how many of these disinfection teams are being sent out to help?
Deborah, Governor Abbott says 6 teams are already spread out across the state with more to come. He says these people are specifically trained to handle natural disasters and hazardous environments, so they're really going to be a big help here. And if you're interested in learning more about what Silver Tree is doing to protect its residents and its staff members, you can head over to our website. We've got the full press release posted there. We're live on the Northwest Side tonight. Holly Stouffer, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.